Okay, this is going to be a video on Scrivener, tips on using it as a beginner author. But I just wanted to take a moment to mention how I do the plotting. I do my plotting in Excel, if you can believe it. And then I tape all of the sheets together, as you can see here. And then from here, then I begin with Scrivener. Okay, so now I've opened Scrivener and I've opened a project that's in the works. You know, it's like halfway. And I just have some notes here that I want to go over. So I open a blank template because in the beginning I opened a novel template. They have several of them that you can choose from. But what I found was that I was always working against the novel template because it did a setup for you, and it gives you, you know, some title pages or front works, things like that. And that just didn't work for me. So I opened a blank template, and then I just work with one draft, which is, you know, one document. And then these are just all sub files. It's just Control N creates a new file. Another reason I don't bother with the templates is because I don't do the title page, the copyright acknowledgments, any of that until I get closer to a finished manuscript. Otherwise, you're just flipping through them and they're just annoying. So I take the Scrivener draft once it's done, and then I go to Word, and that's where I get involved in the proofreading and putting in the title page and all of that, but I don't want to go off on a tangent. So I also don't start with chapters anymore, which is how I first started to write in Scrivener. But as a new author, it didn't work for me because I was losing track of the time. You know, the timing was an element that I had to keep track of. You know, when a day began, when a day ended, and how much can realistically happen in one day. So now I start with a date. If the date is crucial, if it has to be a Friday, I might just put like Friday over here. Like here I have Saturday and Monday. Or I start with new day, just indicating that it's a new day and the story needs to begin from there. And this gives me a way to track the timing of the novel. And it also gives me an idea for later on, because these will not all be chapters. Some of them will be combined into chapters, but it gives me an idea for later where the chapters can begin and end. All right, I already went over the new document. And then once the story comes together, then I switch at the end here and begin to put in the chapters. And then this way, I take it from that point into Word. Now this part over here, this synopsis section, I begin the scenes with this sort of setup. I put whose point of view the scene is going to happen in, and sometimes I don't know, so I leave it blank. Then I keep track of the time and the location where the scene is taking place. This is helpful too if I want to do some research to add some descriptions of the scenes that I might take from pictures or something like that. And then also, most of the expert authors that I was listening to in the beginning, they all said the same thing, that not to put anything in the story that's not critical to moving the story forward. So what I find is that by listing these purposes and the clues that I drop in the scene, it prevents me from going off on a tangent. And I try to stay pretty true to this. Now, often the story will change, and then you can change your purpose and your clues. But this I put over here. Okay, now this one I just put with the instructions here in case anybody wants to take a screenshot of this. But this is from an active story where there's a character, Marguerite, and this is all the things that happen in the scene that, you know, that I have to keep track of. Now, down here, this usually opens automatically. I close this. And then I use custom-made data, okay? And the elements that I've created for myself are called story element and mood, relationships, background dropped, and notes and research. So the story element and mood allowed me to keep track of where the hook was, where the first plot point was. It also helped me keep track of supernatural events, maybe the first murder, the second murder, whatever you're writing about. And I found this helpful because you don't want to have like 3 scenes where nothing's going on, or 3, chapters where not much is happening, because it's too boring. The readers don't like that. And then the relationships, I also keep track of who's interrelating with who, so that I can look. I'll show you later how I do another bird's eye view, and I can keep track of, to make sure that the story doesn't become outweighed by 2 characters and not enough on other ones. It just helps me keep track of, the weight of the story and, the weight of the characters. Now also, the background dropped. In the beginning, as I began dropping the background, I would forget. And so in my first novel, I dropped most background information at least twice and sometimes 3 times. So for me, I found it hard to keep track of it. So that's why I keep track of it here. And then the notes and the research is if you're writing and you want to, you need to check something, do further research. I put it here so that I don't forget. Okay. Now, these come into play when you're looking at another view of Scrivener. And that one you get to by going to View, let's see, Outline. Okay, now I'm down here in the scenes, and so nothing happens. But if you go up to your main document, it will, and you turn off your inspector, it will put up all of these elements, okay? Now I left one out just so I could demonstrate. You go up here to View, and you put Outlier Columns. You're gonna uncheck the ones you don't want, and you're gonna check the ones you do. So I'm gonna add Notes and Research, okay? So this way you can focus on whatever it is in the writing that you want to focus on. For example, if you just want to see your synopsis, you can either take these other columns out or you can stretch it. And this way you can get a feel for what's going on, where you are. You get a whole synopsis. The same thing with the relationships. You can say get rid of this one. Let's see here, Outlier Columns. We'll get rid of the synopsis. And this will drop the spacing here so you can get a feel. And then this way you can look and see how many characters are interrelating with each other so that you can keep track of the balance of the story. Then also I can see, like in one bird's eye view, what background has been dropped and where it has been dropped. That was a big issue for me. I got better at it, but I still have to keep track of myself. And then any, notes that you want to, your research, you can keep track of that as well. So that's why I really like the outline view. Now, some people prefer the corkboard view, but I just, you don't really see that much information. So I just prefer myself the outline view. Okay, so let's go back to where we were here, Scrivener. Okay. All right, and then we put on the inspector, and that brings up these this side of the screen. Okay. So we went over the background, dropped, okay, the notes, and I showed you that. All right, and then I usually have what I call a saved stuff file here, because in the beginning, I wrote chapters and I would wind up taking them out. But rather than just deleting them, I would keep them all in this page here. And then this way, if I decided, well, maybe I shouldn't have gotten rid of that, then I didn't have to rewrite the whole thing. I could go and get it and then just, beef it up or change it, whatever I needed to do it. So I found that very helpful as a beginner. Okay, now I also use these scene titles, and I get them from up here. Like, for example, Marguerite is pouring some love potion in her coffee. Actually, hers is a potion of protection. So so I would put here, Marguerite uses the potion for the first time. And then the scene, and then I would continue with all of this and then write the scene. And this way, as I was going through the story to make sure I covered everything, to make sure everything is in the proper order, I just found having these titles were very useful. And I don't take them out until I'm ready to actually create a first draft and put it into Word. And then the other thing that I found helpful was using the highlighter. And again, this had to do with timings. Like if in one early scene, the characters decide that they're going to meet on Tuesday at 9 o'clock, I have to check on myself to make sure that that's referenced later on in the story. So I will use the highlighter to call my attention to it too, so that when I start to do proofreading and polishing up, I know that there's something here that needs my attention and hasn't been resolved. So that's pretty much the tips that I learned after writing several novels. I wish I had seen a video like this myself as a beginner, and that's why I'm doing the video. So if you want to know anything more about, the plotting sheet, or even I've also used Scrivener to do a marketing calendar, so I can keep track of, what I'm doing, what I need to do, and things like that. So if you're interested in that, let me know below the video and I can do another video. So thanks for watching.